Hello, welcome back to the James Rambling Reviews for yet another episode. And in today's episode, I'm actually going to be mixing up the bag a little bit here, because if you haven't been following my channel recently and all that, or maybe you have, or you're just clicking on this video and you're somebody who just tuned in for the first time, well, I've been doing this Alien Marathon, and I've been talking about the Alien movies for the past 3 or 4 days on this channel. So I did see Alien Romulus last night or whatever, but I'll save that review for tomorrow or the day after, because in today's video, this is kind of surprising, but I'm actually going to be talking about an Indian movie, an Indian sci-fi movie called Kaliki 28, I think it's 2008, well, 2898 AD, right? I mean, this title, it's got a whole shebang that comes with it. It's a bit of a weird title to someone who doesn't know. And so before we get into this review, this will probably be one of my shortest reviews on this channel, because I'm not going to spend so much time on this movie. So when it comes to this movie, before we get into how I felt about the plot and would give it out of 10, stuff like that, so this is an Indian movie, obviously, and if you don't know anything about me, I'm not somebody that goes out of my way to watch millions of Indian movies, because if you're looking at my face right now and what I look like and how I sound, I'm not like an Indian person that just loves Bollywood. And I mean, even non-Indian people enjoy these types of movies. If you get a kick out of these cheesy, singy, dancey kind of movies, then good for you. But I did review this movie called Rise, Revolt or whatever, which was this kind of Bollywood movie where it's this action drama with singing and dancing, and it's got that whole historical context behind it. So I reviewed that and I did enjoy it, but something that was really weird about me with that movie was how there's this Hindi dub, and it was just really strange, where it's it doesn't match the lips, but obviously Netflix has had to do that dub of having the Hindi dub, because originally I think the movie was in a different language in India, and so there's definitely that. So that when you get to this movie Kaliki 2898 AD or whatever, right, I will say that this movie is pretty much like an Indian sci-fi movie that came out a few months ago. It was in cinemas, and it got a good write-up, as well as, people saying, oh my goodness, this movie is crazy, this movie is nuts. And the best way I can describe this movie is, it's if you take Dune, Star Wars, a bit of Marvel, and all these kind of modern, familiar sci-fi tropes, and you put it into a pot and stir it, or put it into a blender, and then you put a little bit of the Indian Bollywood side of things into it. It's it feels like a mix mash of Hollywood and Bollywood, if that makes sense. So that when it gets down to how I feel about this movie, well, this movie is kind of entertaining until it's not, and I'll explain why that is. So this movie, it starts off quite entertaining for me. I can't deny the fact that I found this movie really fun to watch, but there's a lot of singing, there's a lot of dancing, and there's a lot of funny lines where actually I do get a kick out of the cheesiness of this story about how it's meant to be this dystopian sci-fi thing where there's all these people and poverty and struggle on this planet and this kind of world. And the movie does kind of open with a historical Indian thing that, if I'm gonna be honest, it isn't a huge deal of the movie. It's one scene. You'll know it when you watch it. If you're gonna actually watch this movie, you'll definitely see that. But outside of that, really, the first 2/3 of this movie, where there's an hour and 30 minutes left of it, the first third of that, because this movie is about 2 hours and 55 minutes long, and so there's that. And so I would say that the plot itself is a mess. Like, you never really go to these movies for compelling, deep things, because obviously there's a lot of singing, there's a lot of dancing, it's all about entertainment. The storyline can be so generic and silly and just over the top. But the fact that there's this depressing storyline going on, and then there's a lot of singing and dancing, and then there's even these things like where there's this old guy in this movie, and I'm not going to spoil what happens with that, but if you even care, but he's like this old guy. He has this this stick like Gandalf, and he's got like this thing on his head. It's like a light, like a beaming thing on his head that gives him superpowers, right? And he has like these abilities and stuff like that. Like, it's kind of cool until you realise that there's like 5 million plots in this movie, and it just goes on and on and on and on. And I would say that when it comes down to this movie, like for a portion there, it's like a 7 out of 10. It goes down to like a 5 out of 10, and it just feels like this movie where we're just trying to like get so much out of this concept. And I can definitely see, if you go to a theatre with a packed audience and you see this like big epic Indian movie, I can understand why you might get a kick out of that. But really, when you watch this at home, and how, you know, I actually had points where I paused a bunch of this movie because I was kind of like doing other things, and I was like, oh, I don't know like if I should multitask or not while I'm doing something, so I just like kept pausing it. And so for that reason alone, like, the movie definitely feels longer. And when you watch a movie at home and you pause it, the movie can feel longer because, oh, you have to wait for so much more time before more stuff happens, because you're not settling down. Maybe you're going to grab a drink or something like that. Like, for example, I actually went and like made some dinner in my, you know, oven, stuff like that. So it was like, oh yeah, no, I had to do that. And then there was points where this movie was so like, it was so freaking silly and dumb that when I was eating my dinner, like, I was laughing at the movie, and like, it put me off like finishing my dinner like right away, if that makes sense. So I was trying to get straight to the point, but I wanted to also elaborate a little bit in this video. So this is a bit of a random review, but I hope you enjoyed this video and hope you found it interesting. If you want to see me maybe cover some more Indian movies, because I haven't reviewed any Indian movie, as I mentioned earlier on in this video, since RRR. I do know that there is this other Indian movie called Leo, but definitely stay tuned for when I'm going to talk about Alien Romulus this week, because I really still want to talk about that movie, but we've just had a really big surge of Alien videos, so I didn't want to just feed you more Alien. Like, I'll give you something a bit different right here. So yeah, that's it. Bye. I just really had to get passionate here and kind of express my own opinion on an Indian movie that I randomly watched on a Saturday evening. So yeah, bye.